who cares? Whatever. That's all totally on brand for the show.
Yeah, I should have gone home and connected to the internet.
No, it's fucking fine.
All right. You are listening to episode 228 of The Illustrious Gentleman. That's Scott. He draws all your favorite comic books over at DC Comics, including the horror icon, The Dark and the Bloody. Is it The Dark and the Bloody or The Dark and Bloody? Are there two those?
I believe the former is correct. I have it right here. No, sorry. It is The Dark and Bloody.
The Dark and Bloody. I'm Ryan. One the. I'm Ryan. I color comics like the body horror series Family Tree at Image Comics. You can go to tigshow.com and click on the Support the Pod link to find out all the affordable ways you can support the podcast.
Can't afford not to.
That's right. It practically pays for itself.
After 1.5 visits.
That's right. And shout out to Sam. I don't know if Sam's going to listen to the podcast, but got a new patron, Sam. So I want to do my This Is Sam.
Fantastic.
From I Am Sam, I want to do my This Is Sam voice, but it's problematic in 2021.
Don't do that.
Okay. I'm drinking a Green Line IPA at 6.5%. It is from Zipline Brewing Company in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska is home to the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Yeah.
Johnny Carson, Hilary Swank, musician Matthew Sweet.
Oscar winner Hilary Swank.
That's right. Janine Turner, who was Maggie on Northern Exposure, who I had a little confusing crush on. Her hair was short.
Not Oscar winner.
Nope. And Dick Cavett, who had a cameo in one of the movies we're going to talk about, but you didn't get that far into the movie before you quit. I'll let you know when it comes
I don't know
up.
who Dick Cavett is.
Okay. And it's also home to the world's largest woolly mammoth skeleton, and it was discovered in Lincoln County, Nebraska. Also home to your favorite sport, the National Museum of Roller Skating.
Ooh.
So my 6.5% Zipline Green Label IPA, Jordan P. on Untapped says, it's heavier than I'd like. And that's what I say to myself every time I look in the mirror. You're heavier than I'd like.
Nice. Well, I hope it's good.
It's fine.
I got a little exotic this week. And I got my Coors Banquet beer.
There you go.
Insert Sam Elliott voice here.
So that's like your go-to just around the house mowing lawn beer, right? You like the Banquet?
Yes, this is my affordable session beer.
Yes. I mean, it's no Natty Light. Can't get 15 for $10.
No, but at Fry's, where everything is expensive, I can get a case of 18 for like $8. So that's a win.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes.
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't have a bodega nearby.
No, not in Gilbert.
No.
You
would think, though. They like that sort of shit.
Yeah, but it'd have to be a bodega. I guess bodegas sell like diapers and shit. Like a bodega in Gilbert's got to sell shit for babies.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
I don't know.
People out there are raising litters, whereas people in the city, you don't see a lot of toddlers around downtown Phoenix.
Right.
I assume you're toddler heavy out where you live.
They're all over the place.
You can't fucking take a step without stepping on two of them.
Yeah, stray toddlers.
Right.
I have to check under my car every morning before I leave.
Hey, you should be doing that anyways. Because you know what they say, you back over one toddler and you're forever a toddler murderer.
Do they say that?
Yeah. I hear it all the time.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'll give you a little background on my Coors. It's not background, it's just info. 5%, obviously from Golden, Colorado. I am a skier on Beer Advocate says, look, this isn't a great beer. It's no small batch craft masterpiece. It's Coors Banquet. It's what you expect, and sometimes it's all you need. Like the show.
I'm glad that you pronounced "I am a skier" because in the notes I'm like, "What is skier? Like, what's a skier?"
Yeah, I am a skier.
Yeah,
I've never been skiing. I don't know that I have any interest in skiing. It seems like golf. It's a rich person thing.
well, also the skier behind you looks like it's about to get eaten by a monster. Oh, those aren't
Yeah.
skis; those are just bloody feet.
Oh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's it's my end of the year stuff. It's a combination of Halloween and Christmas, which is the best kind of thing.
yeah. And also, for anyone watching this, you're fading in and out like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future in the photo. Yeah,
I
classic
got to
Scott.
get back to 1985.
Yeah, classic Scott. So I guess today we're going to talk about all things horror, which neither of us are well versed in, I don't think.
All things.
But I don't have any TikTok because my TikTok is going to come up in in the horror TV we've been watching.
Oh, sure.
I guess I can
Okay.
only say that the Coyotes are well on their way to the #1 overall pick next season. We've given
Well,
up.
so are the Suns.
Yes, but I think there's more hope for the Suns than there are for the Coyotes. The Coyotes have a 10-goal differential after 3 games. We've given up 17 goals in 3 games.
Who are they? Arsenal?
Ugh. Also, I'm jealous of your supporters bar. The Arsenal supporters bar is a great bar in Tempe, Yucca Tap Room. The Everton supporters bar is like 30 miles away in North Scottsdale. I get these emails. Anyone
All
want?
skiers up there.
Yeah, they're like, who's going to come watch the game at 7 a.m. on Saturday? Like, okay, let me get up at 6, get in the car. That ain't happening, Arizona Evertonians. We don't even have a cool name either. You guys have a name like you guys have a name like the Groupers or the Groupers or the Grousers or something, and we're like the Arizona Evertonians.
You don't have to take that.
No, I'll think of something else. I'll put my noggin on it.
Yeah. What other sports stuff? Cards are 6-0.
Cards are 6-0. I'm going to a birthday party on Sunday to watch them go 7-0.
They can go ahead and fire Cliff Kingsbury right now.
Yeah, they don't need him. All we need is K1, baby, or what is it? K1? Yeah, K1. That's his Twitter handle, I think. Kyler Murray.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Super Bowl, baby.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
Well, now we jinxed it.
What else?
This is
nothing. I guess all my TikTok stuff is also body stuff.
Oh, topic stuff. Body of the podcast stuff. I thought we were going to talk about like your third nipple or something, but
it's the entree.
Yes. Yes, so we're done with the aperitif for our one listener who doesn't like sports. When I was trying to remember all these bullshit things I'm glad you put a lot of notes in here because mine were sparse. And I was trying to think why I can't remember things. And I always thought, and I was telling Gonzo, it's like, I just don't care to remember things. Like when someone tells me something and I just realize it's probably not that important. But then I did read somewhere that is a sign of like anxiety, OCD, ADHD, all that mental stuff that we all tell ourselves we have to make you feel better about the stuff you do wrong. It's like, it's not my fault. It's a medical. I have undiagnosed medical condition. Right. But yeah, I read somewhere that ADHD, adult ADHD, like it's memory problems. Like you just can't remember shit. And I can't remember anything until it's brought up. And then I remember, but I just can't remember things out of the blue. So
recall.
Yes, I don't have a lot of recall, and that's going to make this a fun podcast.
It's not total.
No, it is. It's the opposite of total.
Sparse. Wanting.
Yes, I would like to be able to remember things. You know, I share a studio with a guy who remembers everything.
Ginkgo
Biloba. Ginkgo biloba.
Right. Is it? Or zinc for memory? I don't remember. It's one of those things. Whatever it is, I should take it. Then I would know.
I have zinc pills in my office desk, and I never reach in there. I got fish oil in there. I got zinc. I got something for my balding spot, some vitamin B shit. I just forget to take it.
Yeah, just forget.
Yeah. I guess I'll just do a comb over. Okay, yeah. So basically, I'm going to try to talk about things that I don't remember anything about. But yeah, like, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, every Friday and Saturday night on my way home, I'd stop by the video store and just rent whatever horror movie looked like it had boobs in it. So I think I must have seen every straight to VHS horror movie made between like 88 and like 94. And I couldn't tell you the title one of any of what they're called. But I'm sure fuck seen them. But I wasn't paying attention to them because I was really just waiting for the one,
Yeah.
You get excited when they they go into a nunnery and you start getting a little excited, so I'll start paying attention at that point.
Right. These are the days before Mr. Skin. Or
yes.
whatever it is.
That's right. For our younger listeners, this is before we had a supercomputer in our pocket that could just really just take us dark places. I had to rely on straight to video to take me where I needed to go. And the only VCR was in the living room, so I had to watch these movies late at night in the living room, hoping my parents didn't get up to go to the bathroom. One hand on the stop button at all times. If I heard any creaking, yeah, I think they also maybe might have slept with their bedroom door open. So it's like, oh, never know when my dad would have a flashback and leap out of bed, and I had to hit the stop button.
You can't hit pause.
Right.
You got to hit that stop button.
Yeah. Right. Because pause might be even more problematic. Why is it paused on that young man's backside? Well, it wasn't his backside. It wasn't his backside half second ago, but now that we're here, let's see where it gets us. So I guess people talk about horror movies because it's October. Horror shit.
Yeah.
We've been trying, like, my wife watched something. I couldn't be bothered to pay attention to what she watched. But then at one point, halfway through, like the second episode or something, I said, "What are you watching?" And she said, "Midnight Mass." And I said, "Oh, this is supposed to be good." So then I actually paid attention to the rest of it.
It's very good.
It's very good. Yes. I mean, for us to agree on something that we watched on streaming service, it was good. It wasn't the level of like a Deadwood, or just like, I'm not going to rewatch it multiple times, but it was very good for what it was. And even though we kind of guessed what was happening like a little bit before it happened, it was still like, it didn't feel cheap. It felt like it earned all of its reveals and shit like that.
Yes, I agree. I haven't seen either of the other two previous series, I guess. This is from the people that produce Hill House and Bly Manor, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The ghost stories aren't really my jam, like fiction wise. I'll hate watch all of those shows all day long, but no.
You don't want
I don't enjoy the movie versions of I don't like it. I find them to be rather boring, and they're usually all the same. Which is really my complaint with horror movies as a whole. They might have more just straight trash than any other genre of movie or entertainment, just because it's so cheap to produce,
right?
That anybody can make anything, regardless of quality. But I want to throw some more praise on the Midnight Mass fire. I don't know. I guess I don't want to go into spoilers too much in case people haven't seen it. It's still relatively new. Like I wrote in the notes, it was the one thing in a long time where I didn't spend the entire runtime of the show figuring out how I would fix it. And so when I'm not doing that, that's the mark of something, at least for me, that is well done. I followed Ted Lasso up with Midnight Mass, and now I feel spoiled. I can't watch anything else for fear of ruining the streak.
Oh, you could watch you could read Squid Games. My wife, I did watch my wife watch Squid Games, and it seemed entertaining.
I see.
Where I jumped in and out of it, it seemed like something I would watch, but because I have to read the subtitles, I really got to commit to it. And
is there not a dubbed version?
There is, but I mean I don't want to meet the person who prefers the dubbed version.
Oh, okay.
Like when you watch cartoons and everyone like it doesn't, the level of the voice doesn't match up with what's happening on screen. That's always what the dub version is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd prefer if you've got a choice whether or not to read your movie, I'm going to choose not.
Oh, sometimes if we're watching like a British movie, we'll put subtitles on just to help with the accents.
Oh, I have them all on all the time now because I'm old. Yeah, and I don't hear so well.
Yeah, you don't want to get your spectacles out every time you watch TV. So, or maybe you need them.
Well, I have to now. Oh. Now I watch movies with my reading glasses.
Oh, okay. Wow, you are older than dirt. See, your body's not that old, but your mind and your soul are ancient.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only stuff I've really been watching, or this week when I wanted to maybe I'll watch some horror movies. I guess since I don't watch a ton of horror movies, my favorite horror movies of all time was the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've seen the first one fairly recently, within the last 5 years or so. So I started with Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors.
Because Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is not. It just features Freddy and all new characters, and no one cares about Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. But Nightmare on Elm Street 3 brings back Heather Langenkamp, who's a cutie. Dream Warriors. And I remember as a kid, because we didn't have comic book movies either.
Is that Nancy?
Yeah. So
okay. Eyebrows.
Yeah, like Kathy Ireland, Cindy Crawford.
Everybody's eyebrows in that movie were severe.
Yeah. But yeah, so since I didn't have comic book movies or TV shows when I was a kid, in Dream Warriors, they when they're in their dream, they have abilities, and it was the closest thing I could get to a superhero movie. But the abilities is Patricia Arquette, who's a dish. Her ability is that she can tumble, she can flip. That's her. That's her powers in the dream world, is that she can flip and tumble, basically.
Cool.
And then one guy's ability is that he gets strong, but not super strong. He can punch through drywall strong, and maybe bend a metal chair. But
okay.
He's not lifting a car.
Protective mom strong.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, soccer mom who someone's talking shit about her kid strong. And then one girl's powers, or it's more of a persona, is she's in my dream world, I'm sexy, and it cuts to her and she's wearing a leather bodice thing, and then her hair is in a faux hawk, a super high Ben Glendenning-esque high faux hawk thing, and then she just has 2 switchblades that you could just buy at the corner store. So that's her whole thing. And then the another kid, his ability is, well, spoiler alert, one guy is mute in the real world, and then he finally speaks in the dream world, and he's Banshee.
He's blind in the dream world.
He's Banshee. So once he speaks, shit explodes.
He's Black Bolt.
Yeah, there you go. Black Bolt, that's a better option, because Banshee can talk. one kid in a wheelchair. I'm just going to go through the cast. This one kid a wheelchair in the dream world, he can walk, but it's not enough that he can walk. He's a wizard. So at one point he calls himself like
I thought he was super fast or something.
He calls himself like Lothar the Egregious or something, and like he gets like a cape and shit, and he basically like, so he's like a lame like Doctor Strange. He throws like one fucking and they all die immediately pretty much because they're terrible. He throws like one fucking spell at Freddy, and Freddy just laughs and kills him. And I'm like, well, great fucking power, Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Okay. So I have never seen any of them past the first movie. I hear that 3 is widely considered to be the best of the series.
I would say it's the second best behind the first one.
Okay. Yeah. And I still haven't finished the first one. My oldest was folding laundry the other weekend. So I asked, he's always asking to watch different scary movies. And I keep offering to watch things with him, and he never wants to. So while I had him hostage doing chores, I put on Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, which I don't think I'd ever seen. At least not all the way through.
They remade it in 2010. You're watching the 1984 movie, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And I was, it's a 1984 movie, all the way, but it had a lot of surprisingly good like practical effects. I was not expecting to be impressed by the movie. So well, I get it. It was fun, but we only got like an hour into it before he just sort of walked away.
Oh, so
I don't know. I don't know what to do with this kid, man.
Well, the good effects, you saw all of them because there's 3 terrible effects towards the end of the movie. But yeah, what do you do with a kid that, what do they want to watch? They want to watch Goosebumps?
Like he's watched the first 2 Conjuring movies by himself, and I have no interest in those fucking things.
No, me neither.
The spooky giant mouth ghost movies. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. So
I got to Clockwork Orange this kid and sit him down and tape his eyes open.
Yeah, just
show him the Thing.
You should tape his eyes open and make him watch Clockwork Orange. Yeah, make him watch The Thing. Make him watch. See, this is where I struggle. Oh, puppy noise.
Well, that's why I'd written stuff down.
Right.
I made a list of my favorite monster movies with awesome practical effects. I mean, you could put, even though you don't see a lot of it, you could put Alien on that list.
Yeah,
but
Alien.
The thing, to me, probably has the greatest practical monster effects in the history of anything. Rob Bottin on that thing was fucking madman. I love every second of that movie. I just watched it the other day by myself. Just it holds up. Just great.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess I don't really consider monster movies horror movies, but I guess like Alien is a horror movie, and I guess it would be my favorite horror movie of all time if I'm thinking of it like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I guess I don't know what else. Like I don't watch horror movies. Like I definitely haven't watched a new horror movie. I tried to watch. So after I watched Dream Warriors, and then I went back and watched the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Then I was like, oh, why don't we go ahead and try Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master? And they recast Patricia Arquette. And I think as a kid, I didn't quite remember that, didn't connect that she's supposed to be the same character, just different actress. So last night I got like 10 minutes into Dream Master and turned it off because it was terrible. And then I'm like, oh, I'll try to do the reboot with Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy from 2010. I got 10 minutes into that and turned it off, even though it's got like noticeable actors in it and shit. It's just terrible. It's like a CW version of the, like, it was just horrible.
Is it R?
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like the way it's lit, the way it's shot, everyone's beautiful. Everyone's like, it was just horrible. So yeah,
Bummer.
I don't know what to watch next, but I don't get into those. I don't get into modern horror movies. I mean, The Stranger fucked me up. Strangers fucked me up when I watched it like 15 years ago. That shit might be the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. But I also don't get joy out of watching horror movies. Like I don't like. Some people like being scared, and I'm like, I could take it or leave it, and I'll most likely leave it. Like put on something funny because life is terrible already. Why do I want to be more anxious for the next 2 hours?
Right.
When I can just watch another episode of The Office or something and not think.
I don't know. I like the slower sort of atmospheric stuff that's got like great pacing and performances and just sort of lets you sit in it. Like I from what I gather, that's Hereditary and Midsummer, and which I haven't seen either of those. But when I think of that sort of shit, I think of the first 3 M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Shamalama ding dong.
Yeah. Dude is a gifted suspense thriller horror storyteller. He just needs to stop writing his own stuff.
So you have a note in here that you really like The Village until you hate it. And
I put it on the other day.
I've never seen The Village. So at what point am I going to start hating it?
About 15 minutes from the end.
Okay.
This is the point. During this movie is when he goes off the rails. You can pause the movie on the moment where he starts to smell himself as a director.
He becomes an auteur at minute 93.
He's become just a caricature at that point, and it just he can't get out of his own way because he's the twist kid at that point, and it sabotages the entire thing. But it's great. Joaquin Phoenix and
Bryce Dallas Howard.
William Hurt, Sigourney Weaver, Mad Eye Mooney is in it. I don't remember.
Gleason.
Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah.
Just great.
Yeah. You also
until it's not.
You also have on here, like, again, monster movies. I guess I never think of those as being horror movies, but like one of the things you wrote down here was Dusk Till Dawn, which obviously I like it for other reasons. But it is a fun movie. Like, I used to own the screenplay from Dusk Till Dawn because it's such a fun, like, everything's like pitter patter. George Clooney should have won an Oscar. I'll say that to the day I die. But yeah, like pitter patter, fun shit. It's just a fun movie. And I guess it is a horror movie, but it's not scary.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting to be able to listen to Quentin Tarantino without wanting to punch him in the face.
Right. Yeah.
He plays a sleazebag for different reasons.
Yes, but he didn't have to. It probably wasn't much of a stretch for him to play this character.
But yeah, totally fun fucking movie.
Yeah. This is a movie.
Yeah.
This is a movie you should play for your oldest, and then when he gets bored, just tell him, nope, you got to wait another like 10 minutes, and then you're going to love this movie.
Yeah. I don't know. Am I, I don't know. Am I, woke suburban dad then? I'm not concerned with the amount of blood and gore, but I don't necessarily want him looking at boobies for 90 minutes.
He's older than 10 and he has a phone, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't concern yourself with whether he's not looking at boobies for 10 minutes.
With the exception of a couple little just like second long bits in that movie. Yeah, it's all practical, which is great. Or matte paintings, the giant matte painting at the end. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny
It's, yeah.
that now everything Robert Rodriguez does is green screen, but in that movie, almost everything was practical.
Fantastic. Yeah, and it's before Clooney was George Clooney, which is nice. He's
Oh,
he's not being George Clooney. He's acting.
well, George Clooney's a good actor. You can't. I mean, he's good in Three Kings.
Sure.
He's good in a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't he wasn't telling you about like water plights in the Brazilian rainforest during this movie. He was just being badass, telling everyone to be cool,
Right.
stay cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of the stepping stone movies for him, but it just happened to be a good movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I think I think he did that after he was Batman.
Yeah, I think so. 98, maybe.
Yeah, Batman was like 96 or something like that. His Batman.
His Batman was 98.
Oh, was it? Oh,
so maybe it was
this before this. I know I watched it by myself.
Yeah.
Across from Atomic Comics.
Another one I got on the list is Pumpkinhead. That was a movie directed by Stan Winston.
Okay, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Interesting. Yeah, just cool monster.
Does he have a pumpkin on his head?
No, it's just a big head.
Oh.
Just big head monster.
Oh.
But super badass. Check it out. And the Blob, the Frank Darabont Blob from '88, I think, scared the shit out of me as a kid. Really nasty shit.
Yeah. What's the boob factor in the Frank Darabont Blob movie?
Low.
Ah, that's a shame. Yeah. Okay. He made a career, didn't he? Also, isn't Frank Darabont the one who remade The Mist? The Frank
Darabont of The Mist.
The Thomas Jane vehicle.
Green Mile, I think. Shawshank Redemption was the original showrunner on Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's fine. He gets it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the rest of these are all your notes. The only thing I got, you were talking about, like, we already talked about Midnight. Like, The Ritual I've never seen, but you said it has a great monster design in it.
I love it. It's so good. You should watch that.
Is it based on, is it like a Catholic shame? Is that The Ritual? Is it like religious based?
I don't want to spoil that bit.
Okay.
But
I already did.
You'll like it. It's about a group of friends that go traveling. So you'll like that part.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I guess I confuse this with like The Descent. A group of friends are spelunking.
That's decent too.
Yeah, and then there's
The Descent is
more.
Decent.
There's like Morlocks down there and shit. And for a good chunk of The Descent, the main character is in a tank top, which sold. I mean, that's all I need. Career opportunities. Descent.
I should know the name of the lead in The Ritual because I like him a lot. He's in all of the Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg movies. He's one of the Andys in Hot Fuzz. I just recently saw him in The Big Short. He was one of Michael Scott's guys. I don't remember.
I don't know. I will put it on. I will put it on my list. Is it currently on Netflix?
I like him a lot. Yeah, it's a Netflix movie.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's going to be tonight's movie. I think I got to justify the $15 a month I pay to Netflix. Other than my kid just watching anime, I sent out a group text to my kids. I think I'm going to get rid of Netflix. I haven't watched it in months. And my youngest was like, I watch it all day, every day. And it's just all anime and shit. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's on all the time here.
And then you have a note about the It movie, but the TV movie. So I was going to watch It Part 2 last night. And it's a 3-hour fucking movie. So that really killed my boner for it. But the TV movie
I was watching... fuck. I don't remember what I was watching. My 10-year-old came in and looked really bored. So it's like, you want to watch something? It's like, we can watch TV movie, they keep begging to watch the remake, the newer one.
So the TV movie,
I haven't seen it, so I can't say.
The TV movie has the dude from Wings in it, right? Yes.
No. The TV movie has got Harry Anderson and John Ritter. Tim Curry is Pennywise. But
so this is from like the 80s.
Yeah, it is fucking long. It's 3 hours. And we got 2 hours into it again before they just kind of got up and wandered off. Didn't say anything, just like
Well, you got to give them credit for sticking around for 2 hours in a 1980s made-for-TV movie.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
They gritted it out.
Yeah, that's like an extra like $5 on your allowance just for.
It was painful. It was a painful experience. It watching it, it was like the Goosebumps TV show, except with a couple of N-words here and there. That was bad.
Yeah. Well, the remake,
it's interesting though, because that's it got me thinking about like the sophistication of audiences over time, where you're sort of desensitized to certain ways of doing things. It's like it's the reason nobody watches the Andy Griffith Show anymore. There aren't sitcoms like that because it's not satisfying for generations of viewers that had grown up with these things, right? So they know all this stuff, they've seen all this stuff, and you just want something different or more,
right?
And and watching this thing from 1990, it's like I can't believe that this is people would have been into this. Like they made this expecting people to watch it.
Well, so the way I think about it is like, because movies are better these days, I think comics are better. Like comic art, I think is better now than it's ever been. And I think it's just, so in the 90s, you had like the second, like these kids that were making that show in like 1990, they were the first generation of TV kids. Okay. Now people making Midnight Mass is like second and third generation of TV kids. So there's just more to consume. There's more out there to develop your taste at a younger age. There's more to, it's encouraged more, I think. Like, so just like everything else, like, who was a great comic artist in the 60s, we might look back on now and be like, oh, it was good, but it was a little basic or fundamental. And now we can have people that can do fundamentals and flashy shit. And I think it's just about like generations growing up on it. It can only get better.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And the remake
you're exposed to all of that stuff at a younger age.
Right. Yeah, and like and people who made shitty TV in the 90s were exposed to shitty TV from the 70s. But now those people got better and then their kids got better. So now you're not watching as like the golden age of television at this point has been going on for like a decade or more. Like Mad Men is well over a decade old. So a 25-year-old writer now was watching Mad Men when he was 12. You know, so it's just, he wasn't watching fucking the Brady, like I was watching the Brady Bunch and shit when I was like 10, 11, 12. Like reruns of the Brady Bunch and shit. Now they can watch reruns of like Breaking Bad, reruns of Mad Men, reruns of The Wire.
Yeah, and it's, what it is demand of the audience to have the different thing, because that's how audiences don't have any way, or didn't have any way for a long time to communicate with content producers other than ratings or box office, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did people really like Gunsmoke, or was it that's what we got? So I guess we're gonna watch it.
Yeah. It was soap operas for men. That's what Gunsmoke was. Or Little House on the Prairie was just soap opera that wasn't a soap opera. But yeah, that shit is boring as fuck. Very few things from the 80s and before hold up. Like when I go to my dad's house, they have the satellite or the antenna TV still. so they get those weird channels that just show like one channel just shows Cheers for 4 hours a night or whatever. Like Cheers holds up, but then it goes to something else, and I'm like very few shows hold up that are before their time. Yes, Cheers holds up. Don't give me that look.
No, I think I'm agreeing.
Don't condescend me, man. What movie is that? Where oh, wait, it's Brad Pitt in True Romance. Don't condescend me, man. All right, so what? You have a note here. So what are you? You were talking about how you're a fan of like not necessarily ghost stories, but stories that aren't over the top. You already talked about The Ritual.
Yeah, like
Sense.
I can't watch. All right, that's not accurate. I can watch. I just don't want to watch the movies that my oldest wants to watch because they're all the mass killer movies. It's all jump scares and stuff like Nightmare on Elm Street at least has the little wrinkle of the fantastic just because of the premise.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't really have an interest in watching the Scream movies or Michael Myers walk around and stab somebody. It just doesn't seem interesting at all. There's nothing to hold my attention. So I like the headier, sort of slower stuff, which is why I might like Hereditary and Midsummer and that sort of shit. Was I for a long time I thought The Exorcist was the scariest fucking movie. You know, that's one of those things. It's more.
Yeah, and that's why
it's all in the pacing.
That's why Midnight Mass works so well, because it doesn't really become a horror series until like the 4th episode.
Yeah,
and it's like a drama before that, like a creepy drama maybe.
Yeah, it even though it's got the sort of a classic horror element to it, most of the horror comes from what people do to each other.
Yes,
in that show,
being terrible
rather
people.
than the monster.
Right. Well, maybe that's why creative people tend to like those movies better, because most of us have maybe self-esteem issues, so we know how easy it is to be horrible to somebody or to be horrible to yourself. So everything rings true. Like whenever I watch one of those movies or a TV show and someone does something that might, or they do something that, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, I can relate a lot to those characters. They'll do horrible stuff and they'll know it's horrible while they're doing it, and they'll feel bad, but they'll still do it. And I'm like, oh, I 1000% relate to that. To like, I know this is the wrong thing to do. I know this is going to hurt somebody, but I'm still going to do it because I need to punish myself, or I need to just, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get all those characters.
Yeah, I think that might have been what drew me into Midnight Mass was Riley's character.
Yeah, he's a handsome dude.
How well done that was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a treat for the eyeballs.
Yeah, just just somebody that has to live with this thing and not feeling like they deserve anything.
Yeah, like that's good. If a lesser writer would have spent time showing this character how do I get past this? The character would be like, I'm tired of this. How do I get past this? How do I move on from this? And then in Riley's character, he's like, no, I deserve this. I'm gonna take this every night. I'm gonna take this pain repeatedly for the rest of my life because this is what I deserve. There's no self-pity there. There's no.
And which made the scene on the boat very sweet for me at the end for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
well done.
That's good writing too, because
except for the CG water.
Yes.
Everything in that show is great.
The CG water makes it look like there's a 30-mile-per-hour wind at all times, but the boat's like barely rocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that's one of those. It's rare for me to get that scene in particular. I didn't figure out what was going to happen until literally like 15 seconds before it happened. And that's rare because I'm always thinking like, I'm not saying I'm a great writer, but I'm always trying to think like, what would I do if I was writing this scene, or what's going to make this scene special? And that one, I didn't catch on to what he was doing until like maybe like 10 or 15 seconds before everyone else caught on to it. And whenever that can happen, I'm thrilled because normally I'm always making conclusions in my head, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but
Yeah, yes, for somebody like me, he was a fantastic gateway character. And then by the time he leaves, I'm already invested in everything else that's happening.
yeah, I think I said out loud like, "Oh no!" Like I did the "Oh no" when it happened. It was like Omar dying in The Wire. When Omar died in The Wire, I was like, "No!" Like I threw the remote. It was like a big thing. Okay, so a couple questions here. We posed this to ourselves, but we'll do a question here. So if you had to narrow it down to like one horror movie that's like your favorite, what would it be? I already kind of said mine. I think mine would probably be Alien because it's probably one of my favorite all time movies. But again, that's kind of a easy answer.
The Thing really stands out for me. Rewatchability, though, probably that. I think The Ritual might be too emotionally exhausting for me to watch repeatedly.
Yeah, so it's almost got to be like a monster movie that you can rewatch without
something sort of fun. Yeah, if you're is something I could just put on anytime and enjoy it. Yeah, The Thing, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, like Us is an amazing horror movie, but I feel like it was such a emotional roller coaster to watch that movie that like I'm not going to seek it out to watch again. Whereas Alien, I'll watch every time I come across it. The Thing, I'll watch multiple times. I saw someone mention on Twitter like technically Jaws is a horror movie. You could watch that on repeat.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you have the monster element, then it's easy to make that pick.
Yeah, like your Green Line IPA. I don't want them to be heavier.
Right.
It's something that I just put on and just smile while I watch.
Yeah.
Some of those things. I guess Shaun of the Dead, even though it's you don't like horror comedy, you don't like comedy / things.
Mm-hmm.
I would put that on there.
Okay. Let's talk about comics for a minute. We got two questions, but I'm going to ask this one first, which you probably didn't even see in the notes, but this is a good question about Craft. Not The Craft, which is technically also a horror movie. So writer Dakota Brown, Dakota Brown is a writer. It's not, Dakota's not his middle name. But writer Dakota Brown asks, pacing is super important to horror. How would you design a page of or a page or two of dialogue and caption free and caption free? Oh, it's a multi-part question. Good Lord. Basically, how do you design a page to guarantee that a reader takes their time on like a moody, like a mood building in a scene, and they don't just immediately keep flipping through the book? Like, I guess the question is, you've drawn a horror book. Did you take that kind of thing into account? Like, how do you build
unsuccessfully?
How do you build atmosphere in a horror book so it's not just because you can read a modern comic in like 4 minutes. You really get your bang for your buck with these $5 comics. But like, what would be your
phone sex line?
What would be your advice, or what tricks would you use to create atmosphere in a comic or slow down the pacing of a comic to lead to the reveal?
I don't know. You got to be extremely judicious in what you show and how you decide to show it, right? Like I guess Mignola is probably the prime example of this. Just giving you pieces of things that aren't necessarily important's not the right word, but he's giving you all the important stuff, but there's so many extra things that are all just mood building,
Right?
and all just atmosphere, and how you frame it, what you're doing. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to put into words.
Yeah, I mean, he uses those inset panels. He uses so most comics, you get the establishing shot, you jump right into the story. With him, you get the establishing shot, an inset of a bird, an inset of a bell, an inset of like a painting on a wall. And I think all that does, I think that works because it forces you, first of all, it's better than just a single establishing shot because it makes you look, it slows you down because you're looking at everything.
Sure.
Because I think in your brain, you're thinking like, oh, why is this important? So you're really looking at that fucking bell, thinking there's a reason he's showing you that bell. It's got to be important. But I think a lot of what he's doing is just making you slow down before you get into whatever he's leading you into next.
Yeah, thinking about it now, he edits his stories on the page, if that makes any sense. Like when he puts in that single inset panel of a skull or whatever, my brain it'll force a cut in the comic, and it'll do that, and then my brain will start lingering on that panel and doing like a slow dolly in or out on it. And it's really interesting, and I don't know who else can achieve that sort of stuff. It's just sure as shit not me,
I mean, he came on a style in the 90s that had not been done before. I mean, I'm sure he has said, I haven't read every interview he's done, but I'm sure he has influences where he picked a lot of this stuff up from. But I mean, he set the table, so to speak, for everyone who followed him. Now everyone's doing inset panels for like 2 decades and shit like that. I think so I always, I'm always like, oh, there's writers like to write. And so sometimes they write too much for a scene or whatever. They overwrite a scene, not necessarily good or bad, but just as the artist, sometimes you got to like, well, this doesn't need to be 7 panels. I can make it work in 6 panels or something like that. Where I think with a horror book lends itself to more panels, so that when you do finally have a double, like a splash page, you've earned that splash page, because I don't know. I think every time you add a panel, it slows down. It's pacing. A 9-panel page is going to read slower than a 2-panel page. So if you don't have a ton of dialogue, I don't mind extra steps. Like guy enters the room. If there's no dialogue, sure, do an inset of the doorknob. Do an inset of a silhouette of the guy entering the room. Then do the scene where the guy's in the room. Rather than if it's a superhero comic, I am gonna start that scene already in the room, guy standing at the desk, because someone's getting punched in the next panel or something like that. Whereas in a horror book, like say the script calls for a character to go into an office, pick up a piece of paper, and he's going to learn something on the piece of paper. I think in a horror book, you do that in like 8 panels, just to slow it down. Everything, just slow it down, give it more atmosphere. Maybe I'm crazy, but to me, more panels equals a slower read, equals more time spent.
Horror is probably the other side of the superhero coin. With my superhero stuff, I want the layout and the page to be sort of as energetic and dynamic as the shit that's going on inside of the panels. And I think it's sort of the inverse with the horror stuff, where you don't want to distract from the content.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do, or I would resist the urge to do an interesting page layout. And it is a style over substance thing with horror too, but you're going in a different direction.
Yeah, like in superhero comics, you always say show, don't tell.
And it's totally the same here.
Well, I would say in a horror comic book, show and tell. Well, maybe not. Maybe you're right. But I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe it goes back to like a noirish type movie, a noirish type vibe is the voiceover, that kind of shit. I think works in a horror book that doesn't work in a superhero book. Like Chris Claremont, for all the wonderful work he did, one of his faults, in my opinion, is that like he would often have a character thinking what they're doing. Like Kitty Pryde has to catch a baseball, and in her head she's like, I have to master walking on air, being lighter than air, so that I can then solidify my hand to catch this ball. We're like, not
until like Alan Moore do you get the juxtaposition of the action that you're seeing with something that's going to that seems unrelated on the surface, but the subtext is really adding more to what you're looking at. Yeah.
And again, that could go back to just more educated readers. We've now had
it's the sophistication
40 more years of reading comics.
Audiences,
right. So I guess to answer that question, in my mind, more small steps.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I've done a couple of horror series, and I've got shit on by reviewers for not being up to it. So I don't know. I don't know how I would do it as the answer.
Well, now you're drawing Justice League versus the Legion of Superheroes. So fuck those reviewers that said you weren't good enough for the Lost Boys sequel. Now you're going to draw 2,000 Legionnaires and 50 Justice Leaguers
in every panel.
So who needs your Frog Brothers? Austin Hamblin asks, what are some of your favorite horror comics? So this leads to something we're already going to talk about.
Yeah.
I've long been on record that I don't like horror books. I don't like comedy books. I guess I only like superhero books, but then everyone tries to tell me that Hellboy comics are horror comics. So I guess Hellboy. And then also I really enjoyed what I have read of. I've not read all of it, but I've really enjoyed American Vampire, whether it's Raphael Albuquerque or the Sean Murphy stuff. American Vampire is just a fun concept. It's a good book. It's always drawn really well. Preacher,
Scott
I guess.
Snyder.
Yeah, Scott Snyder. I guess Preacher would be a horror comic. Preacher's fun.
Yeah, I would put that on there. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Sandman universe was the first thing that came into my skull. All of that stuff, the Books of Magic, Sandman, any of the adjacent things. Anything Vertigo, I guess, really, right?
Yeah, at that time. I never really got into it. It was too... even Death, the High Cost of Living, which I acted like I really liked at the time because one of my friends really liked it and none of my friends read comics. So then I read it and I agreed with him that it was, wonderful and everyone loves it. And it is a really good piece of comic book making. But when I look at it now, I'm just like, God, there are so many words on this comic book. It is just word after word after word. The Sandman universe for me is just too... I can't get that involved. Like, it's just too much. It requires too much of me. Give me Captain Britain punching somebody, and I'll take my leave after that. You're welcome.
I don't know. It's got a specific vibe that I can appreciate, even if I don't even if I haven't gotten into a lot of it, there 95% of it, I've never read, but the bits I have introduced myself to are I find interesting and worthwhile. There aren't a lot of things that have their own specific sort of atmosphere to them. Like all the Harry Potter stuff feels a certain way. At some point, all of the Star Wars stuff felt a certain way. And I get that with the Sandman universe stuff. It's all got this finely cultured tone to it.
Yeah, I feel like to properly appreciate all the Sandman shit, like I need to have like Doc Martens that go up to my knees. Maybe some eyeliner to really.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt to have like a PhD in literature.
Right. Yeah, I guess another thing with me with horror comics is I've never in my life been scared reading a comic book, so it's hard for me to classify them as horror books because they don't do what like a horror movie would do. And even reading, I don't know if we're going to get to any books here, but I've read a lot of horror books, and they don't scare me. They're just interesting, but they don't scare me.
Sure, yeah, and I think that's sort of a narrow perspective, though, because that's only one of the reactions, right? Possible horror stuff. I don't know that scaring is. I don't know. For all the stuff I consume, scaring the audience isn't its objective. It's right. I mean, it's to horrify, and in different ways you can do that. Yeah, I mean, it can make you uncomfortable. It could, at the very least, it should make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just scared. I don't know that I haven't been scared of anything I've watched since I was a kid. That's just because kids are stupid.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of stupid kids, I've only had one. So I guess if you take into account things that like I don't know where my kid is. Like if I have a dream and I can't find one of my kids, technically that's a nightmare. But if going off classic kind of nightmares, like monster style nightmares, I've only had one in my life. And it was after watching the worst Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Part 2. I watched it by myself, and then I woke up that night, and I know I was awake, but I must have been sleepwalking or whatever. And so I woke up out of bed, and I looked up, and I just had a bloody stump. I didn't have a hand. And I ran into my mom's room screaming. And I woke her up saying, and she's like touching my hand. She's like, "You have a hand." And in my mind, she's holding on to nothing, like I had no hand. And it took like 15 minutes or so to calm me down. But that's really the only time I've ever woken up
crazy.
From like a traditional nightmare. Sometimes you dream you're stuck in, Gilbert, Arizona. That's a nightmare, but I can get up from that. I can wake up and move on.
Right.
Sorry. I mean, it's no Chandler. But what are you going to do? All right. So if I have to list my favorite horror comics for Austin Hamlin's request, I would say probably Hellboy and American Vampire, even though I only have 6 issues of American Vampire. I never read Hellblazer, never got into Sandman, never read Witches, which you put down here, just because I just don't read those books.
I know I like horror comics. I think when, I was going to say when they're done well, they're good, but anything done well is good. So right. Whatever. I enjoy them. I like horror stuff, but I like the slower, moodier stuff, and that stuff done well. One, it's hard to do well. And 2, it doesn't sell because nobody wants it. So when it comes along, the odds are, like the odds of everything else being good, are low. So we don't get them often, and when you do get anything, chances are it's not good. So when it is good and it's one of those things, it's special to me.
Yeah, I misspoke earlier. My favorite horror comic of all time is The Dark and Bloody, which is available at Amazon and all your favorite comic book stores. You're welcome for the 30 cents I just put in your next royalty check.
Ooh,
Yes.
going up.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I mean the whole point I guess of this hour or more that we've been talking is I really don't care about horror things. I don't seek them out. I don't like on social media people are like, "Oh, every night in October I'm going to watch a horror movie and all this stuff." And I'm like, I could do that or I could just not do that and my life won't change either way. It just does nothing. I guess I'm just a miserable piece of shit. Like nothing excites me. I guess the exciting part is I'm about to do my Harry Potter rewatch and then my Christmas movie rewatch, which all I care about is Love Actually. I get to watch Love Actually in like 2 months. So that's what Halloween means to me, is that it's time to rewatch Band of Brothers next month, Harry Potter, and then Love Actually.
Cool.
This is kickoff season. October's kickoff month for what I really want to get into.
Nice. Yeah. It is the start of the season of things. It's like the worst part.
Oh,
of the year.
Well, because after this it's nonstop for the next 8 weeks. It's gonna suck.
Yeah, and I've got a ton of birthdays in there.
Yeah, same.
Then it's capped off with Christmas, which is just the fucking worst.
Yeah, and then everything is like after Christmas. You're like, oh, at least it's gonna be a new year next year. Let's start fresh. And then by January 3rd, you're like, it's just the same thing. It's a made up date. It's the same. It's Tuesday. It's the same shit. Because no, it's not the same shit. Because then I got to start worrying about taxes again, which I'm going to worry about for the next fucking however many months. Can't pay that bill. Need to color some superhero comics. Yeah. So, and as a kid, I read a lot of horror books. I read a lot of Stephen King books as a kid, but it's not something I continued on.
I never did.
Never into adulthood. I don't read horror. I guess I don't read a lot anymore, but I don't read horror books anymore.
I don't read fiction books.
Yeah, most of what I have right now on my bookshelf that I'm not reading are like nonfiction travel books.
No, yeah. I only read books about submarines.
Yeah, just like your dad. So the one book you did mention here, I wanted to ask you about this. Is you have read On Writing by Stephen King?
Yes, that's the only King book I've ever read.
Is it as helpful as everyone says it is? People think
it's great.
A lot of people think it's like one of the best books about craft. Yeah.
It's really inspiring.
Is that the book? I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I don't know if they said Stephen King said it in an interview or if it's in that book, where he says like he doesn't remember writing Cujo because he was just high the whole time. Like when Cujo came out, he had forgot that he didn't remember anything about writing Cujo.
I do remember something like that. I don't remember which book it was. I think it was one of those books where he was just...
That's a long ass book. But it kind of makes sense
the entire time.
It is everywhere. It's all over the map.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never read the book, but just based on that TV movie, I imagine the TV movie is probably more faithful to the book than the new movies. And oh God, I hope the book is better. People are right, because that was a nightmare.
I do kind of, if you're looking for something that's horror adjacent, and you like Stephen King, I would recommend Castle Rock on Hulu. It's like a Stephen King verse. So it takes little bits from like there's a character from this book, so it's not a direct adaptation about anything, but it's just all these characters that he created
sort of
in like
homage,
like in a new world or a shared universe. That's what it is. The Stephen King shared universe. SKSU. Could run for 21 seasons, SKSU. But yeah, I enjoy. I think there's 2 or 3 seasons. Castle Rock's fun. But yeah, it's nothing in depth. But I also, I mean,
Maybe I'll check it out.
I don't like to get scared. I don't go to haunted houses this time of year. Fuck that shit. I don't need some dude jumping out in front of me with like a fake chainsaw that looks real. That's not fun. Who needs that shit? Not this guy.
Yeah, I'm not into that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't like the jump scare stuff. I don't avoid those sorts of things, but I'm just not interested in it.
Right.
Like I just want something that's well done.
Like the scariest thing for me is like if I woke up and had an email from every collaborator I'm working with and they were all upset and I was behind on every project, that's what scares me is turning in a page and having someone be like, this isn't what we wanted, this isn't what we asked for. To me, that's a horror movie right there. So yeah.
I don't know. All of my favorite stuff seems to be people just sitting in their awful feelings, which is horrifying to me.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just end on that.
I don't want it.
I'm sitting in the storage room of the studio talking about awful feelings. All right. How was your Coors banquet? Was it scary good?
It's a solid 3.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't.
No. The Zipline Brewing did the opposite of growing on me. When I had my first one today, I was like, I mean, I've had them before. This is the end of my 6-pack. But when I had my first one today, I was like, ooh. But, I was moving around doing stuff. And now that I had to sit with this and my feelings for the last hour, a little too hoppy. So it continues the trend of Midwest breweries kind of suck. So if you're a Midwest brewer, get at me, bro. The only way you can prove me wrong is to send me free beer. So otherwise, I'm going to stick to my guns and say,
prove me wrong.
All Midwest breweries suck. So I'm going to give it a 2.5. It's neither here nor there. It's not Jamie Tart. Or no, Roy Kent.
No, Roy Kent.
It's not Roy Kent. All right. I have to edit this and then try to do more work. Got to send revisions to an editor. Good God.
What?
Talk about horror stories. All right.
Do they know who you are?
All right, man. Do what you do.
Yeah. Be spooky, everybody.
Ooh.
It's the season.
Ooh.